What's up, narrators? This is Mo, and I'm back, and this is the first episode of Coach Conversations, our newest Narratives Per Possession podcast show. Want to thank you all for joining. Bit of housekeeping up front. Please like and subscribe and leave a comment. That helps us continue to grow, and we definitely want to grow this because this show I'm especially excited about because this is an opportunity where I want to help this platform get into deeper details of basketball, and that's what this show is ultimately going to be about, showcasing basketball coaches and sharing basketball knowledge, because in Narratives Per Possession, we want to connect you to better basketball narratives, so we should actually talk about the real game of basketball. Without further ado, I want to bring our guest for the evening to the stage. He is the associate head coach of the Rice men's basketball college program in NCAA. Want to welcome Chris Kreider. Chris, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great, Mo. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm grateful that you made the time. I know you're busy and deep in the middle of a training camp right now to get up and running with Rice's upcoming NCAA season. And love to talk about that in a bit as well. But we're here tonight to talk about the New Orleans Pelicans offense. And I think this is I'm intrigued by this, and just a couple of contextual things just to sort of set the stage to talk about this team, right? They had a very active offseason, brought in new players, right? They brought in Jordan Poole, they brought in Sadiq Bey, they signed Kevon Looney in free agency. Very active in the draft as well. They drafted Jeremiah Fears. They made a eyebrow-raising trade for Derek Queen, and then they also drafted Micah Peavy. So new talent in this team, and they extended Herb Jones. Zion Williams made the headlines. Obviously, spent a lot of time in the offseason, presumably doing a lot of great conditioning work. And I'm excited just to hear your insights and see what you're seeing in this team so far. They've played two preseason games in 2025 NBA preseason. So all that said, what is it about the Pelicans that's sticking out to you? Why are you checking out film on this team?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for the invite. I mean, no pressure at all, right? Being the first one on this new series you're starting. But, as we were talking before, a lot of respect for, what I've seen with your show and all that. Looking forward to tonight. But when we talked about, what would interest me talking about, obviously the Pelicans was the first thing that came to mind. Trey Murphy, played here at Rice, had a chance to recruit Trey, so know him well. And so that anytime I get a chance to watch him play and then look at how they're using him, and then also just it's that time of year where we're right before our season. Always love to just check out other teams and do quick little studies on, just conceptually what they're doing, how they're getting their guys open, how they're getting guys shots, how they're moving the pieces around. I think that's what we do as coaches, always looking for ways to improve and get better.
Yeah, and I love that personally as a basketball fan and just somebody that wants to continue to learn more details about the game and share those details. I love seeing how the mechanisms work to where the basketball advantages are being created. So without further ado, I want to hand it over to you. I know you have film for us, so what I'll do is I'll go ahead and toggle us over to the film you have. And so we've got that on the screen, and take it away. Tell us about this, what you're seeing so far in the Pelicans game.
Yeah. So as we talked about too, just feel free to cut me off when we run out of time. But I did try to just take this as if, I'm watching, breaking it down, not a scouting report, but almost like that, just where I'm cutting it and kind of using our language as coaches. We like to steal terminology, and you take words and you make them their own. So that's kind of what we'll do through it. So have it categorized kind of by concepts mostly. You'll know more about these the personnel than I will, just being honest. This time of year really locked into our team and the college game. But, they play out a pistol, you can see early in this game, and conceptually, two guards with a big, and they do some different things. Labeled this as pistol keep, where they just hit the guard, he kept it, and now he's playing in this side pick and roll with a single side tag. But what I was trying to see is they're coming out of the summer. They've all, had a summer full of workouts. And this little pocket pass, why was the pocket pass there? Because of the drop coverage. And this big being able to make that quick decision on a short roll, seeing that there's a tag, who's stopping him? It's that guard, and that quick spray out to a catch and shoot three, which in the NBA game is gold. Just out of that pistol action, pistol keep. That was the first thing. A couple more pistol options. That's Trey right there. High on the floor, you would say 4-point line, almost 5-point line spacing. But now him playing off this. So this is something where I think they're strategic about using him in this get game, we might call it. But this throw to a big, chase it down. You have to go over Trey. So that's going to create a situation where you're going to have two on the ball. He plays through the pocket. Same thing. Kevon Looney there has to make a quick decision. He drops it off. So first three clips here are all out of pistol, different pieces, moving them around. And then just looking at the coverages in this, obviously they're going over shooters and they're trying to blow up these handoffs. So out of the same family, let's say the pistol family, this little pass, the big has the ball, and now as these guards get blown up, they got a decision to make. And the reads, I think, you could quick cut it backdoor. He didn't hand it off to the first guy. This guard here could backdoor it. He tries there, but now this bypass, this little comeback where he sticks his right foot, comes right back, and this little pocket of indecision on the roll creates that off the dribble three. So it's like, conceptually, there's so many options out of this three-man game and this pistol action, but it's the nuance when I'm watching it. These are the best players in the world, the best shooters in the world. They're reading the defense. They're playing against the coverage. The big is making these reads in real time, and these are all the shots that they've repped all summer. But now being able to step up and make this off the dribble three, and then obviously they're crashing the glass. So, here's another something else you could do out of this pistol, this guard-to-guard screen. You could stay in it to force the switch. Here they stay attached. So now you were talking about Zion. Well, Zion, you can just tell, how are you going to guard that guy, right? They're going to maybe go under, it looks like, this pick and roll. So they try to set it lower. You can see 21 trying to set it lower and lower and lower. Well, then now I think, they're just playing off concepts where 15 Alvarado sees this pass is about to be made. Who could steal that pass? Potentially number 11. So he cuts the stunt, you would possibly call it, to create that catch and shoot three. So conceptual basketball with the best players in the world. When I'm watching this as an assistant coach here at Rice, I'm just trying to say, okay, the IQ involved of reading what's happening, knowing why you're cutting, in addition to making all these plays, is kind of where it's at. But conceptually, a lot of different options with that three-man action.
Yeah. I think a good contextual question, perhaps for some, if someone's watching this right now and this is the first time they're hearing pistol action, what are some of the fundamental benefits of, or let me ask it this way. If you're bringing pistol into your system, or you're installing that, what are the sort of advantages that you're hoping to gain from having that sort of that action in the playbook for the team?
Yeah, great question. I think I'll just try to pause it here. Pistol, three-man action, 5-out spacing. Obviously, the NBA rules and the spacing is just so different than college. A lot of times for us as college coaches, there's things that trickle down from the NBA game, and then some things that just are a little different from a spacing standpoint. But here you have a guard, or call it a forward. You have a handler with the ball. You have a guard here as the second man in this action, and then you have a 5-man trailing. They're trying to play with pace. They're trying to play fast. And there are certain things that you could do within these actions where a lot of people would call this, this guard to guard, this small. It's 3 offensive players in an action that you're making the defense make decisions on how are we going to guard this. So if I was scouting against this, this little action would keep me up at night a little bit, because you got one of the best players in the world, Zion, who's very unique with his skill set. So you're going to make a decision based on when Zion is the handler and 24 Hawkins is in it. Okay, we're going to do this. Well, when Trey Murphy is the handler and Hawkins is in it, okay, we're going to treat it this way. So I think there's a lot of the possibilities are endless But let's just talk about these two. I think when Zion's the handler here, you can see 7 going under that. So like whatever the screen is there, he's getting under. And he's going to keep backing up. And later on, what I've saw is they like to play Zion. They'll take this pistol, they'll walk him down all the way to the logo, you would say, to get that handler in a better place where they can't go under anymore. And now they can maybe get 2 on the ball, with Zion being close to the basket. So to answer your question, pistol, there's endless options. You could blur this or ghost this out. And 21 could set a flare screen. There's so many different options that they're playing against the defense, and you're allowing guys to play with freedom within a concept. And so hopefully that answers your question about pistol, but it allows you to play fast. It allows you to play with 5-out spacing. And then back to playing fast, here's the pace that the Pelicans and most NBA teams want to play with. You're coming in transition and you hear the word drags all the time, drag screens. So the drag is going to different spacings on the weak side. And so here I thought this was interesting where, what's the coverage? Well, they're in drop. They're trying to play 2-with-2, but this nail defender, and I think that's a big thing, in pick and roll where you try to clear the nail and you try to, you're going to tell this 41 here to push away to create some space. So that's a longer closeout. But the whole thing is, where's the pick and roll happening? What's going on the weak side? And so what I saw here was just they're trying to get the advantage. He recognized he didn't have the advantage. He was trying to move it to try to keep the blender going. And 41 had a open catch and shoot 3. Now,
just something, because a lot of analysis and a lot of breakdown of what pick and roll is, what pick and roll continues to evolve to in the NBA. I hear recurring themes about offenses that want to manipulate the nail help. Can you expand upon that a bit more? Because I think in this, like that clip you're showing right there, it is a good example of that nail help. And what we mean by the nail is like the middle of the free throw line. Usually a defender will come and help there because it's a good way. Just some of the things, and I'm not saying this is like exactly in that clip or that possession, right? But nail help. I mean, you're talking about someone who's in general, like you want as a defender, you want to be, if you decide like you want to like take away the middle, you want to park somebody probably in the lane, right?
Yeah, no, great question, and I can already tell you, my edit is long. We're not going to get to all this. So what I did is just fast forward to, I'll go back and forth to some things as we go through this. But when you said that, what I did notice the Pelicans like to do, a lot of people call it different things, but to clear up the nail here out of like, some people would call this horns out entry. And that's the other thing, as we talk basketball, you and I were talking before, it's the fun part of coaching to me, especially on the offensive end, is you pick up a concept, you might hear what they call it, and you might steal that name and tag it or kind of stack it on things that you currently do in your system. Or you might just steal the word, or you might call it something else. But I think once you call it something, it makes it easier. So for instance, I have it labeled on here as an A cut, but it's a corner cut. But here, when you get to this pick and roll, you're saying, how did the Pelicans clear the nail? There's a couple different ways you could do it. You could 45 cut number 23 here, but they corner cut, or, we call it an A cut. Anything out of the corner would be an A. Anything from the 45 would be a B. And anything from the slot would be a C. That's how we've chose to identify it. But you can see in this clip, number 11 is going to clear up this nail by corner cutting, and 23 is going to slide to the corner. And so this was out of a shake. And when I say shake, I'm saying it's a outer third pick and roll to the 2 side. They're aggressive in this coverage right now. They had been switching other times. So they switched their coverage. How do they create space? They cut the corner and slide 23 in this case. So 23 now has all of this right side that vacuum was created with the corner cut. And now he would go catch this or stampede, which is going to try to get the dominoes going. Here comes the low man over. And now you can get the blender on that skip, one more. And that's how, with all that space in the NBA, clearing the nail, that's one way that they did it. So here's just another same thing. They're going to the 2 side, 0-0 in the corner. The coverage is different. They're not aggressive on the ball. They're in a drop. But here he goes. How are they clearing the nail? They're corner cutting. 23 is going to go to the corner eventually. Actually, in that time, he didn't. Same thing here. Middle pick and roll to the 2 side. You could see 14 already recognizing it, that he's got to clear that help, and he corner cuts that out of there. So to answer your question, the Pelicans, to me, when I watch it, here's a really good clip. All right, so 0 is coming, middle pick and roll to the 2 side. He is pointing his left hand right now. He's telling him, like, 23, like, cut. 23 forgets to cut, cuts late, clears out that space. But they've chosen that the corner cut is how they're going to alleviate that nail, from what I've seen in 2 games.
Let me ask you this question, because this is well, when I watch NBA games and over the last few years, I feel like I've had different levels of angst about the corners, because the stock NBA defense in a lot of ways is 5-out spread pick and roll. So teams want those corners occupied for sort of like the catch and shoot reads. But it is refreshing seeing, like, just in these clips that the corner cuts are being emphasized. From a coaching perspective, like, it's more of a hypothetical question. What are the nuances or the principles that you would, like, coach your guys up on to, like, really make that decision to know, like, okay, this is time where I need to be the outlet versus, like, let me make this corner cut to keep, like you say, the blender. And for people who haven't heard that phrase before, putting the defense in rotation, because that seems to be like an important judgment point in NBA basketball that, I imagine, like, teams will want to emphasize more.
Yeah, I would be curious. I felt like in the playoffs, you were seeing a lot of people when it's the 2 side cutting that 45 a lot. So I think it's like probably 50-50. I don't know. Some people prefer one or the other. But I think, like, here's another clip to talk about what you're saying. So here's an empty corner pick and roll. What's the coverage? They're in a drop. How are they going to alleviate this help? Here they go with that corner cut on the 3 side. So what you were asking me is, I've worked for several different head coaches in college and tried to study just as many my own self as an assistant, trying to get better. And I think there's different ways to cut, but I think there's something that you always have to remember is the personnel involved matters a lot. So if you have 3 shooters, let's say, I've seen people hold all 3 at the 4-point line, let's say, and just dare you, against let's say the same coverage, a drop coverage, they dare you to leave the shooters, and they're moving to windows, they're relocating, but they know my 3 guys can shoot. I dare you to help off. And then you have let's say you have, some people call this the fence or an umbrella or whatever, but on that 3 side, if you had, let's just say number 0 here was a non-shooter, which in the NBA, it's really hard to find a non-shooter, probably, more than in college, obviously, but you could make it a personnel thing where, all right, number 0, he's always a cutter. So a personnel decision on who to cut at all times, a full-time cutter. Or it's a rule where I felt like watching the Pelicans, I don't know this, but to the 2 side or to the 3 side, they were cutting the corner. And you can see how this opens up. It has, I don't know if that makes that corner slide 3 a little, you're stepping into it. So I don't know what the percentage does there. It's not straight catch and shoot, but they're going to get these spray out corner 3s off this cut a lot, I feel like, based on how I've seen them cutting on the weak side.
Let's see.
So, just timing wise, like, this is just notice, when you watch somebody, you want to say, okay, I wonder what they're trying to do here. You can tell when Zion's in the trail, they're trying to get him to his left hand. So this little pitch, I mean, one of the best in the world going left. And so, like, from a menu standpoint, okay, that's a way to get him down going left. Here's this pick and roll I was talking about with Zion. Like, this is super low. Like, so you would call this a logo pick and roll on the right side of the floor, Zion to his left hand. And now how are you going to guard this? Like, what are you going to do? you got to make a decision. Like, I would love to hear teams playing against that alone. Like, what's the best way to guard Zion at the logo? Like, are you putting 2 on the ball? Are you just like under, just keep backing up? But like, you could tell they were strategic about putting him there.
Yeah.
This right here is interesting too. Zion as a handler. And you can notice what, to me, like as I was watching it, I was trying to come up and pick up new ways of like solutions for us even here at Rice. It's like, okay, if you're being denied, so here's your handler. This guy right here is, if 55 wanted to try to get a catch, his guy is like top blocking or sitting on top. So 55 screens his own man to create that advantage. But you got Zion, who basically is, call it 4, sometimes plays the 5, but you have these different position players. So to me, this is almost not an invert, but kind of, but you can see how just the confusion, he knew the coverage. He saw how his guy was playing him. He stopped and screened his own and gets Zion a wide open layup.
Yeah, it's a very nuanced screen because, I guess you could consider it to be like in sort of like the Gortat family, right?
Yep.
Of screens. Yep. And yeah, that's a very nuanced one where it's like just the angle of how 55 is like almost like turning it into a back screen is creating that lane for Zion.
Right. So we would call it a selfie. Like, hey, you try to find sticky words that like, selfie. Okay, I'm screening my own. And that's a way that you can get a little. So I'll kind of go through here getting, this cut right here. I think a lot of people in the basketball world have called this a Zion cut. I know we do now. But this little shake, Zion is the single side tag. His guy is obviously going to be in more than normal. He's not what you would call a shooter. So he's overly bumping the cutter or the roller and tagging the roller. And so he doesn't throw it to Zion here. But you can find a lot of clips over the years of where the handler throws it back to Zion. Here's Zion stampeding the catch going left. And so just, and as I was watching it, you see things like that, a Zion cut with Zion involved.
Yeah, and that's how you know he's arrived once he starts getting his own cut. But it's interesting to see that cut because you almost like the pattern here that I see emerging about Zion is not knowing if this is intentional or not. At least the perception, the optics of it. It seems like it's advantageous for the Pelicans to create those angles for Zion because of it. The unique attributes he has as a player, especially off the ball. It's like if he's able to get that angle, you really can't take that away from him.
For sure. I mean, you get him going downhill. I mean, he's one of a kind. I'm trying to think like, just for essence of time, there was a couple, I thought, here's a couple things. So this whole concept of this little angle screen, pop in the big. So Trey Murphy, back to him real quick. I think, comes in the league, when we recruited him here at Rice, I know he was 6'4". And then, now at this point he's 6'9". His body has changed. I think when I watch him play now, you can tell he worked the last couple years on just shot creation and playing off the dribble. And so now back to this little just simple action of they're screening to pop and they're going to cut the next guy in line, cut 0. And now you have Trey as a handler trying to get this handoff. And now they're doing what we had just talked about. Okay, they're ultra aggressive. They're blowing up the handoff. And now if you get bypassed in this, there's a couple different options. Trey could go and play split game with the next guy, but he just turns it and finishes his cut at the rim. And I know Trey's been working on this too, these bump finishes. He's put on weight, and now at his size and being able to finish at the rim. But that was a direct read of, okay, you want to blow up this handoff? I'm not going to fight it. I'm going to finish my cut at the rim. I'm going to put pressure on the rim. The low man has to step in and help. He could spray it and get the blender going on the other side, but that was just putting him as a handler in that, you can just tell how his game has evolved. And they do love to play through splits. They'll throw it in the post. The feeder will start that split game. And then that big is looking to just play uphill, kind of like the Draymond Green type play where that dribble flip out of the post to try to get 2 on the ball, and he's rolling behind, and hopefully that guard is coming with speed. So they were strategic about playing out of the post splits as well a lot in these 2 games. And then it's a whole game within the game, kind of like Pistol was. Are they switching this? If so, you're going to do what 23 here did. So he slips the switch. Trey is spotted up wide open, and you have a really good passer that throws a strike cross court. And then here's where Trey's been getting better too, playing off the dribble and finishing. So a lot of splits, a lot of uphills. And, that was conceptually something that happened a lot. Skip to the end here. One more clip. I think just another thing that they play out of delay, as do a lot of people, 5 out, and there's all kinds of options in there, but just how quickly they just make these reads where, back to what we were saying about the corner guy, you can see 14 as we come off the handoff here, he's thinking, oh, I got to clear the nail. I got a corner cut. Well, the defender went under, and immediately 21 just flips it, turns it, rescreens it, and the corner guy backs out because he read the play in front of him. So as I watch this, I'm saying, okay, conceptually, I see what they're doing, but everybody on the floor is not just highly skilled, athletic, size for position, but you have to have an IQ to play like this, and you have to see, and you have to be able to process in real time. So under pocket. So, there was a lot going on in just a simple play like that.
Rescreening is one of those like very nuanced micro skills that I feel like doesn't get enough sort of discussion because it looks like it's a minor thing, but sometimes the ball handler just needs that extra few seconds that rescreen provides to, kind of figure out their plan of attack, right?
Right. No, for sure. And then it comes back to who are they going to go under again? Probably not. Most teams will go under the first and over the second, depending on where it's at. But yeah, screen location, who's in the action. All that stuff's going to matter. I'll kind of go towards the end here. I know time is of the essence. So finished off the edit with just some things from Trey, just because that's what led me down this Pelicans study as well. But so, Trey running to the corners, and he's, I think when he first went in the league, that catch and shoot guy that's really gotten better. But you have Zion on the left side of the floor, a lefty, and you have a burner. Let's call it a knockdown shooter in the left corner. But this little dribble flip, is it a handoff? Is it a ball screen? These flips are really hard to guard. And then defensively, you always talk about switching up, especially one of the best shooters in the NBA. But here they make the cardinal sin. They don't switch up. And that's all Trey needs. Stopping behind in that pocket. So as I was watching, it's like, okay, how are you creating these catch and shoots for Trey? How are you getting Zion to his spots and all that? But that's one way that Trey got, one in this game. But then I noticed, okay, Trey's a handler. And that's something when he first came in the league, he was not that. But this little immediate get game, high on the floor. There's the under you were talking about. And then in every pick and roll, you want to be a threat to reject it, which he is. And now I just also, as I was looking at this, I'm trying to say, okay, what has Trey been working on all summer? You can just tell this shot creation, 1 to 2 dribble, bump, get to his spot, probably got fouled, did get fouled there. But being able to, get that defender, hold the line, you would call it, bump, that's what he's been working on all summer, and now being able to see it in a game. And then just putting one of the best shooters in this guard-to-guard kind of blind, this whole guard-to-guard. Oklahoma City obviously is masters at this guard-to-guard stuff, but square switch is what a lot of people like. Is there contact? We're going to switch it. If not, so the hip tap, there it is, creates confusion, gets 2 on the ball, and then just, he's he could catch and shoot that, but he's go catching and back to that holding the line bump. Like I can see his game evolving as I watch that. He doesn't miss many of those. And then the last clip was just, when he first got in the league, I remember watching him in the recruiting process. His senior year in high school, he got a dunk in a high school game. It was the first time I'd ever seen him dunk. But now just to see what he's doing, however many years later, based on out of bounds, a lot of times, you watch the Bob McKillop, Davidson teams in college, the starting on your knees, defender can't get up in under you. So he has an act. He's getting ready to fly off this screen, but he burns it. And then just these type plays, just watching it for me is just crazy to watch, because I remember as a senior in high school, he was barely dunking. Now he's in the dunk contest in the NBA. So full circle moment watching all that for me, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, that has to be amazing for you, just witnessing that journey that Trey's been on. Going back to, obviously you scout or recruit him, and you just see this progression, and you see what he's continuing to add to his game now.
No, most definitely. It's been fun. When I think of Trey, I think of three things. He's, one of the best dudes I've ever met, just super high character. He loves the game, works at it, and he's a student of the game. And when you get all three of those things together, I mean, that's why he is where he is, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has just been a great walkthrough of these clips. And so I'll recap at least what I'm taking away from this, and maybe just to round out the story arc of it. What I see from the game footage that you share, is obviously a sophisticated 3-man game that New Orleans is really, they're emphasizing that to the greatest extent as possible. But then also, having a Zion Williams, it's also important to get him in advantageous spots. And I see that pretty consistently through those possessions as well, where certainly, get across half court, get into the 3-man game, then conceptually, like, can you create, gaps and angles for Zion to attack? And at the same time, also, as the counter to that, if somebody wants to go after Zion, like, where are they camping out their shooters to take advantage of, the space that Zion's created? Because almost even that one clip you shared, where Zion kind of flows into basically an exit screen, like that's cool to me. Like, so there's a lot of interesting wrinkles here, and I think this is. I'm glad we went through this, because I can say from the optics of, there's a lot of ire that was brought about, in terms of the front office kind of moves of, like, the players they brought, the players that the Pelicans brought in, the draft trade for Derek Queen, those kind of things. It's kind of good to cut out that noise a bit and just see what's happening on the court, because there's some interesting wrinkles there in that offense, and I'm now going to be, like, interested to watch this team throughout the season, just from what you've shared tonight, Chris. So thank you for that.
No, for sure. Willie Green does a great job. I had a chance to, I'd love to go to, just for me, I'd love to take a couple days after watching this and just, as a coach, I'm thinking, okay, I would have loved to see training camp install, what's their, I skipped a lot of the stuff that I kind of put together, but, like, they had some Spain action in there. They had the exit screen that you mentioned. They had a lot of things kind of, woven into the things that they're doing, while at the same time, you could tell Zion obviously is a focal point. They're playing through the post to get the splits. They're getting Trey involved more on the ball at this point in time. But yeah, they're trying to play fast. The weak side cutting we talked about, the corner cuts, which was interesting. And so I just think you could watch them and what they're trying to do. You can see how they're trying to move the pieces around to create those catch and shoot threes and play with pace. And so I would love to see the inner workings. So it's like sometimes, for me, we're getting ready to do scouting reports on a college team, but I would love to see just that level, just because I've never seen it up close and personal like that.
Yeah, it would be interesting for sure. So I can't say enough. This was great. I really appreciate you coming on and just the level of detail that you were able to take us through with what's going on in New Orleans game so far. Looking ahead for yourself, so Rice, November? The date escapes me, but I mean, You
November.
guys are like, a few weeks away from tipping off your season. Just very briefly, like, what is that experience right now of going through at the NCAA level, sort of like the training camp and the preparation, and where are you with scouting at this point for the season?
Yeah, I think everyone across the country is in the same boat. Everybody's been practicing all summer, beating up on each other and ready to play. You have scrimmages happening, this weekend and next weekend. You have exhibition games starting to pop up. So everybody's, itching to play somebody else. You're starting to break up, your schedule and kind of go game by game and assign them to different coaches to do the scouts. You're putting your heads together, trying to figure out, okay, nowadays in college basketball, you have to figure out who's on the team. Everybody's got a new roster with the transfer portal. So you're in the early stages of fine tuning your team, but getting ready, for your first couple games, and just itching to play somebody else at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, I know you have some bigger names up front in like the first few weeks. The one that off the top of my head, I know you guys have Oregon coming up, so some Big Ten non-conference play for you.
Yeah, we're at Oregon, at Tennessee. Those are two tough ones. Coach Lanier worked at Tennessee, which is a huge reason we were able to get that game. So those two in particular, they'll be fun atmospheres.
Cool. Well, yeah, I will. Yeah, I will have to keep my eye out on how you guys progress during the season. Because I'll be curious to see just like for yourself what kind of things, what kind of concepts you guys are running. So thank you again, Chris. I can't say enough. Obviously, ordinarily I think all the guests I've had so far, I'm like, what do you have to plug? You have a NCAA basketball season. You have a conference schedule to go attack. So I wish you all the best in your upcoming season. Love to have you back for another one of these. Thank you for helping kick off the maiden voyage of these coach conversations.
No, I appreciate the invite. Like I said, I think you're doing a great job and appreciate all you're doing.
Yeah. And I will say to the audience just one more time, please like and subscribe to this video, leave a comment. It helps this channel continue to grow, and we want to continue to grow and share real basketball knowledge. So thank you for everybody that jumped on. And Chris, thank you for being on the first ever coach conversation.
First ever. Thanks. Appreciate you.
All right. Take care.